Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is a middle school teacher all the way from the Philippines. Her name is Darhen Eve Concepcion. I think I got that right. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I'm very excited for today.
Did I get your name right? Did I get it right?
Well, it's actually Darren. It's a silent H.
Oh.
And then my last name is actually it sounds Spanish. It's Concepcion. So that's how you say it.
Yeah, I gotta say, like in the run up, because obviously I always do my research up front with my podcast guests, so I would have done this probably months ago at this point. But I did keep looking at your name, and I was just like, this is a really unique name, even for the Philippines. This is a pretty unique name, and I don't know. Is there like a story behind this? Is there like I don't know, like. Please, if there is anything behind this, please tell us. I'd love to know.
Well, the word or the name Darren is pretty much very common, especially for boys.
Okay.
But for girls, it's not really that usual. So my mom's name is Zenaida, and my dad's name is Reynante. So they had Da and Ren because Ren is my dad's nickname. So it's Darren. And his nickname actually has an H in it. So it's not R-E-N, but it's R-H-E-N. So they mixed it together. And then my second name is actually from the Bible. My parents are both religious back like way back. So me and my sisters and brothers' name are all like a mix of their name, and then the other half was from the Bible. So there's that.
Would you consider yourself very and your siblings to be very religious? Is it kind of passed down? Or?
Well, since my dad was an old deacon in our church, and my mom was actually a choir member, and I have a brother who's a pastor.
Right.
He actually graduated from a Bible college, and both my older sisters are graduates from Bible colleges, but they are not as involved like in full time in the ministry as they were before because we had to move churches.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, like I said, I've had a few people on the show from the Philippines, and there's kind of a mixture. Some are religious, some are not. I do kind of get the impression that religion is quite a big deal in the Philippines, at least as far as Christianity is concerned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, about the kind of, I suppose, outlook of Christianity in the Philippines, like generally how it's regarded?
Based on what I know, what I learned from school, before even the Spaniards came to colonize the Philippines, there were actually like the Filipinos had their own gods and goddesses, pretty similar to how Romans and Greeks did it. But I forgot what we call that. They actually prayed to small statues, like rock statues, and they had that. But when the Spaniards came to the Philippines, led by Magellan, a few years back, they did insist that Filipinos have Christianity as their religion. Same with, I think, pretty much how other colonizers went through, like they're enforcing their own religion and their own customs. That's how the Philippines became Christians in a sense. But our religion, specifically the Baptist religion, the name itself sounds very, very traditional. I think they pretty much like just went on as time went by. Americans came here and share that with us. So there's a bit of a small percentage of my religion specifically, but Catholicism is the biggest one here in the Philippines.
And obviously, since you're a school teacher, so obviously you deal with a lot of the youth coming into society in the Philippines. What's kind of the outlook for young people here in the Philippines right now? Like, is religion a big part of their lives, or do you think it's maybe something that's not as, I don't say popular because I feel like that's the wrong word, but like in a way, kind of, yeah, do you know? Because like here in the UK, obviously Christianity for many years was very important and very big, and still to this day there are a lot of, you know, churches and there's that presence there, but I would say like most people, certainly my age and younger than me, aren't really religious at all. It's like not as it's not big as a deal in most people's lives. I mean, I know religion is kind of a very individualistic thing. Some people keep it to themselves, some people celebrate it, publicly, it's different. But what's the kind of vibe in for the youth in the Philippines as far as religion is concerned?
A lot. Well, coming from my experience, like being a middle school and high school teacher, a lot of my kids would have their religion very, very innate in them, because their families are like for some, there are like evangelist Christians, and they go to that church, and every Sunday and Saturday they go to Sunday services, youth services. But for people like in my community itself, since Catholicism is something that's innate with the tradition, I think some of the kids just like, when you fill up a form and then they ask, what religion are you? And they just write Catholicism, but they're not really big practitioners, or they're not really devout Catholics. And I think it does vary from family to family. You'd see some houses that have like prayer sections in the house, like you have the Mary and like the Jesus, and some of them even have a running joke in the Philippines is that when you go to abroad and you see a family who looks Mexican, but when you come into the dining room, you'd see the Last Supper wallpaper in their dining room.
Wallpaper.
It's a wallpaper, or like kind of a painting. So there's that. So that's very, very Filipino.
I gotta say that's a first for me. Religious wallpaper. I've never heard of that before. Wow. I guess it's a thing, isn't it? There must be a market for these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like odds and ends and stuff. Because obviously there's like trinkets and ornaments and stuff that people decorate their houses. But I can't imagine having like religious wallpaper.
Yeah. Some of them were like, how 3D paintings would be like in the middle or like a centerpiece in the dining area. That's how it looks like here in the Philippines. And for people who can't afford the painting or a wallpaper, we have this big calendar that has a picture of the Last Supper in it, and there's like the calendar below, and that's what's in the middle of the dining area. So that's pretty much a Filipino thing.
Excellent. Just a different question entirely, but what would you say, so your opinion personally, like what are the best and worst things about life in the Philippines?
I think I'm not going to be the first person to say this. The best thing is the people. Philippines are very hospitable, very, very bright, and if you compare them to like other people, you'd notice a Filipino right away, especially when there's a celebration and one of them is holding a karaoke mic, because a lot of Filipinos are either very good at speaking or very good at singing. So parties are never boring. And sometimes I think you've seen some videos where foreigners go here in the Philippines and they party with the Filipinos. Yeah. You'd see like how Filipinos would smile even though they don't know what they're smiling about. It's all part of how bubbly and how bright the personality of Filipinos are. One thing as well is, I don't know if you've seen this in the news, like whenever there's like typhoons in the Philippines, like flooding and stuff like that. When I see other countries do that newscast, you would see like a lot of people like looking so in distress and like bringing their homes to like safe evacuation centers. But when you go here in the Philippines, you start filming them, even though they just got flooded or their houses like literally got struck and broken by the typhoon, you'd see them waving at the cameras like, hi, we're on TV, we're on TV. And it's very exciting to see that. I think it's also very great to see that Filipinos, even though some of them are OFWs or overseas Filipino workers, even though they have a hard time abroad and they're missing their families, because there are Filipinos there who share the same exact trait of being sunny and bubbly and helping each other out. It helps them get through to tough times, I think. So that's just like basically we're the best thing in the Philippines. Like you can say the food or anything, but like when there's the people, Filipinos like straight up are like good. You're in a good place. So there's that.
And what about the worst things you're not so hot on?
Um, I would say this again. This is in my opinion. There are two things. It's basically the educational system. As a teacher, it strikes my heart the most because I believe that our kids deserve the best kind of education. But somehow, since it has been a very difficult time for the Philippines to adjust, since every country is like globally competing and stuff like that,
right,
we're trying our best to strive to be like them, when in actuality there's a very big difference with the resources and how we should be handling our own communities before trying to build up the competence to go against people abroad. So yeah, mainly educational system is kind of like a heartbreak for me as a teacher. Yeah.
Okay. One thing I also wanted to ask you about that I haven't really asked, because this is okay, I've got a couple of friends that are from the Philippines, and one thing that they've all kind of commented on is the fact that, like, when you're dealing with foreigners, not always, but a lot of the time, there's this kind of like, I don't even know how to put it. Basically, they've just not been treated very well by foreigners. So, like, obviously, hospitality is a big thing in the Philippines. Naturally, it's a tourist destination and such. But generally, there's been like many experiences of people not being treated very well by foreigners in the Philippines. Can you speak to that? Like, what's your kind of experience of foreigners in the Philippines, either visiting or just, I don't know, maybe people that you've done business with or whatever, maybe even teachers that are from overseas? Like, talk to us a little bit about foreigners in the Philippines.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, because here in the Philippines and where I used to teach, is a place where a lot of foreigners would stay.
Right.
So there are pretty much a lot of foreigners every now and then, but I do not have directly a personal experience with them. But I have talked to people online, which, in my opinion, were not really the best. Because, like, for example, when you're having a very good conversation and all of a sudden you say, oh, where are you from? And that person would say, oh, I'm from America, I'm from this place. And I would say, oh, I'm from the Philippines.
Yeah.
The first thing that they usually say is, wow, you speak English very well for a Filipino. And I'm thinking, well,
interesting.
It's because it's our second language. It's something that we use every day, unlike any other countries that only use one language. And then the next thing was like, so what's going on there? Or sometimes they would comment on why is your country like that? And sometimes you'd think, what do you mean by like that? And I know there's a lot of things that's not really good, but sometimes when you hear about that, it kind of is like, you kind of started thinking, what foreigners think about my country? Why do they start asking like that? A very recent experience was, I'm trying to look for a work, specifically in China and then in Korea.
Oh, cool.
I had to talk to a recruitment center, and there was this guy, and he said, oh, I loved your CV, I loved everything, and you have the certificates. Can you tell me more about yourself? And I said, well, I'm Darren, I'm 23, and I'm from the Philippines. And then I said, would there be a problem? He said, for China's not giving any work permits for you because during the pandemic.
Just back up a second. When you said that, did you use that specific phrasing? You said, will there be a problem?
Well, not necessarily. I literally said, hi, my name is Darren, I'm 23, and I'm from the Philippines.
Yeah.
You emailed me about a job opportunity. I was hoping if you can tell me more. And then he said, because I'm from the Philippines, because China's not providing, or I think it's the what you call this? The Chinese embassy is not giving work permits from your country at the moment because they are denying entry. I cannot help you with that. And then when he said, but for Korea, he said they prefer native speaking Americans. And I started thinking, well, I guess it's just a preference, but sometimes I've also heard how people would reject, even though you have a lot of good things on your CV, they would reject you because first you're from the Philippines. Like, I don't know what to deal with that, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to feel like that because you know that you're capable of doing a job, but because you're a Filipino or you're from the Philippines, you're being restricted to what you can do. So just like what they said, you need more experience, but how am I gonna have the experience if you're not letting me to have that? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's something.
We have that exact problem here in the UK. It's farcical. It's always a circle. It's like, oh, like, for instance, what will be quite common is you'll get a degree, you'll come out of university, and the most, like, plausibly, supposing that you go to university at 18, straight out of school, and let's say you did a year in business as well, so that's 4 years, with the degree, plus, let's suppose you really apply yourself and you get internships in the summers and all that stuff. Accumulatively speaking, that's under 2 years worth of experience. I mean, at best, you could probably get about a year and a half, maybe a year and 7 or 8 months in total. So when you come in and you start into the job market after graduation, you start looking for jobs, they start asking for like 3 to 5 years experience. And it's like, well, how could I have possibly gotten that? And then it goes to your point before about, well, they say you need experience, and it's like, well, how can I get it if you don't give it to me? I have experience. And it's like, oh, it's just not enough. And it's like, that often annoys me because let's be real here. Whenever you go into any job interview, job situation, it doesn't really often matter how much experience you have because they're going to teach you anyway. It does matter for certain professions, like if you're a doctor or something, then it absolutely matters. But for business, you can train someone up fairly quickly. It really depends more on the person, like how quick they are in the uptake and so on and so forth. And that's the frustrating part for me as well. I mean, I've been unemployed for a year and a half now, and I have a degree and 4 years experience in my field. And, I hear the same thing all the time. Oh, you just don't have enough experience. You don't have enough experience. And I just laugh at that now. I just think they're just lying to you. They're just, you know what I mean? And it's annoying as well because employers don't have to, like, you're always told as an employee or a candidate, you need to be very, very honest. You can't lie, you can't exaggerate, blah, blah, blah. You need to be honest. But then the companies are never actually honest in their hiring process. And they do plenty of things to discriminate against people. I'm sure you've dealt with that as well. You know what I mean? Like I bet you, based on what you told me about applying for places like Korea and China, I bet you there's things in their forms that don't outwardly say, we don't want people from this particular background or this particular age range or something like that. But there'll be something in there that will imply that. And you just know, and you're like, oh, okay. Because it's like they can't spell it out, but it's like, okay, we want these particular people, but we can't legally say that. So we've got to try and find a way to discriminate so that we get what we want.
Yeah, so it's pretty much like filtering using euphemism. So
basically.
Another thing was I tried to apply for like jobs in Thailand or in like Vietnam, and there's like specified there would be like, I would be like, oh, I like this job, that's this is for me. And then below, when you see the requirements, it would say native speakers of English only, specifically from these countries. And I realized Philippines is not in that like list of places. And sometimes I would say, like, I mean, I'm pretty much very confident on like how I would speak in the language, but then again, it falls back to, like, I started thinking that well, some people who are Native Americans do not have an experience in teaching. What about that? Are you still going to accept them because they're just native speakers? Instead, for those people, currently I have like 3 years of experience, including this year, and it's kind of a bummer actually, because especially my goal in teaching is to teach kids to communicate, because a lot of Asian countries or like East Asian countries in particular are not very good in English. But my aim is to help them communicate themselves so that they can send themselves out into the world and be able to like share their culture, share their experiences. But if it's only my nationality that holds me back to do that, then that sucks, because I cannot do what I love to do, and I cannot help those kids that I want to help. So yeah, very much pretty much for like every work or job that you have, there's always that barrier that you cannot change. So yeah.
Before we get into, because obviously like the main thing I want to talk to you about obviously is your career as a middle school teacher, and we'll have plenty of questions on that. But one of the things you sort of said in that intrigued me a little bit about this idea that, you know, and I think the same thing exists here in the UK. There's this kind of stigma that teaching is like really easy. And I couldn't disagree more with that. And look, I've never been a teacher. I have been in situations where I've had to teach people things, but like I've never been a teacher. And over the years, you know, I've studied in many capacities, you know, school, sixth form, college, university. I've done business courses. I've done all sorts of stuff. And obviously throughout the years, I've had all sorts of teachers. Some were amazing. Some were awful. And some I couldn't even believe were teaching. I just like, I can't believe this is how did you get this job? But the biggest problem with the people that couldn't teach is, as you say, like the communication issue. I feel like to be a good teacher, you need to be a good communicator. You need to be able to know how to command a room full of people, how to get their interest, how to retain their interest. So I guess kind of my question to you is like, as it comes to like your teaching style, or how you kind of go about being a teacher, like what's your style? Like how do you kind of retain the attention of everyone in the room and command that room, and like how do you approach that?
Well, I would like to share first that I have been teaching kids from ages 6 to 16, because I've taught grades. I'm not sure how the grading, like the levels would be in your country, but in my country it goes from grades 1 to 10. So I have taught kids from levels grade 2 to 10. I've taught English, and I've taught spelling, I've taught literature to these kids. I even taught theater acting to these kids.
Oh wow.
And one thing that I would like to share for those people who do not know, kids are very different, like from one another. There's no one way to retain their attention. And I'm speaking from my experience, because I have kids in my classroom that no matter how many times you ask them to stand up and let's play a game, they're not going to do it, because it's something that they don't like. But when it's quiet time and when they're reading on their own, it's somewhere that they excel into and they enjoy. So one thing, it's a big misconception that, oh, I can teach a classroom full of like, my smallest class is like 8 kids for high school, and that's on high school. But my grades 2 and 3 are both 23 and 24. So that's 23 different kids versus you. How would you handle it? One of the things that I usually do is I play music. Number one, kids love music. It works from levels like grades 1 to 3. I ask them for like solid 5 minutes to dance and to sing and to run around. Yeah, I can see the curiosity in your eyes. Like,
yeah,
why?
Because I've never experienced that. Like, I think that's like a good. Okay, like I've seen examples online of teachers doing things to kind of, you know, interrupt the talking, get people focused again. So essentially, what you're saying is like, okay, I've got a room full of kids. They're being really loud. I need them to focus on this particular thing. So you go, all right, guys, 5 minutes. Let's put this music on. Let's have a dance.
Well, technically that's not how you do it. It's more of because when you start off the school year, you give them like the routine.
Right.
So when we say routine, these are the things that you follow, like the flow of the class. So for me, they're my energizer, like literally that's how my energizer is to play a song or to either play a game, or like I'll let them do what they want for 5 minutes. Because first, if you're dealing with a bunch of kids who have high energy in the beginning of the class, most likely their energy will stay up until the end of the class. But the thing is, these kids need time to talk to their classmates. These kids need to like level their energy down. So it's not always going to be 100%. You want them to be at least 80. They're awake but not too rowdy. So
Right.
what I would do with them is I would play a song and I would say, okay, everybody, let's play freeze dance. And you'd see kids running around dancing, and I do not just stand there and watch them. I dance with them.
Right.
Because we build connections. As a teacher, always remember that you're not just teaching them, you're building connections with them. I always receive this thing, like with my parents, they would say, Teacher Dars, they love your class so much and they're expecting you to be their teacher for the next school year because your classes are so fun. But the real thing is that these are just kids. These are kids who want to have some fun. These are kids who want to learn and not feel pressured. So first I do that with my class, and then we do reviews. And then during discussion times, I only like have a very short discussion time. And then my assessment will be a game. So instead of me asking to do paper and pen tests, I would ask them to stand up, like raise their hands, or give 5 things about this topic. What are the 3 things that you learned in this topic? Give it to me in 10 seconds. So it's fun for them, but at the same time, you know that they're learning. One of my students love to play give me 5 things in 5 seconds. So I think I would like to challenge you to that. Are you a very big fan of Pokemon?
Yeah.
Big fan of Pokemon?
Not massive fan. I was a massive fan when I was younger. Just like first 3-4 generations. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, this is very simple. I'll give you 3 categories.
All right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 seconds to name 5 things in that specific category.
Oh, okay.
So let's have like a very easy like trial round. I would say, name 5 fruits. Name 5 fruits that is color red. Go. 5.
Whoa.
4. 3.
Strawberries.
2.
Apples.
1.
Well, I thought we were doing Pokemon.
No, that was just a trial round so you see what we're going to do.
Because I thought you were talking about Pokemon, and I was like, fruits in Pokemon? Like what?
Yeah. No, that was just a trial round.
Okay. Oh, okay. I messed that up. Okay. All right.
So I think I'll need to give you 10 seconds. So let's have this.
I'm so bad at this
Name 5 Pokemons.
Oh, okay.
That are fire type. Go.
Charizard.
1, 2,
Magma.
3, 4, 5, 6,
Moltres.
7, 8, 9,
Vulpix.
10.
Growly. I got it. There you go.
See, you know how it makes you feel like so excited and so pumped up.
Makes me
right?
feel stressed.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Well,
no.
Some of the kids love that because first I would not necessarily do that immediately. Not so how I would do it is first name 5 Pokemons that you know, blah 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 blah, and then another one name 2 kids in class who also likes Pokemon. Ta ta.
Oh, that's clever.
And then
Yeah.
then the next question would be, what are the different types of nouns that we learned yesterday? So that's how I would do it. It's very fun actually, and you see the kids. I think it's kind of evil because I can see the panic in the children's eyes. It's kind of fun, but at the same time you appreciate that they're trying their best, and that's what really matters. It's really fun. I miss my kids really.
Oh, well done. That's awesome. Yeah, I tell you what, I can tell that you're a good teacher, because you get the vibe from certain people. And I remember, like, anytime I'd ever step into a classroom, like that initial meeting with that teacher, you can always tell with the vibes. And I think more importantly, if someone wants to be a teacher and they enjoy being a teacher, then they're going to be a good teacher, because they'll have that passion and stuff, and the drive to do it and do things like that. Have fun with it. I think it's important to have fun with it, because a lot of teaching has to be, we need to do this exercise, we need to do this thing, we need to do that thing. And like, I used to hate, and I was terrible at subjects like mathematics, for instance. I was awful. But there were a few teachers here and there, once in a blue moon, that would come around and make it fun. Like, I never forget, there was this teacher when I was in primary school, and he was a substitute teacher. And I really wish he would have been our full-time teacher, because he was amazing. And I remember one time, I mean, you can't do this sort of stuff now, but back then, to get people inspired by maths, because everyone's sitting there like, it's maths. Like, how can you be excited about maths? Some people like maths, but most people are not going to be excited about maths. And I was terrible at maths. And he'd be like, come on, guys, this is easy. Come on, like 3 times 4. 3 times. Come on, you got this. And then he goes, Ellie, come here, come to the front of the room. And so she's like standing there like, oh, giggling, like, what's gonna happen? He's like, look, 3 times 4, it's easy. And then he just picks this girl up and puts her up against the board, and he's like, look, 3 times 4 equals Ellie. But what is Ellie? What does she represent? Come on. And like, it got people guessing, because they were like, oh, and he's like, I'm not gonna put her down until you tell me what the answer is. It was fun, and it was, but it got people happy. It got people excited about the subject. And that taught me from a young age that you can make anything interesting, anything at all in life, as long as you know how to engage with people, how to communicate, and how to kind of get people excited about something. It's all about how you engage with people. If you just talk in a monotonal way, like, yes, and the next page, yes, now we're doing multiplications and fractions. Turn to page 500 and copy the exercise. Like, who's going to be inspired by that? No one is. I mean, you could even be talking about something really interesting. Like, I don't know. what kids into now? You could be talking about Fortnite, and they'd be like, yes, today we're going to talk about Fortnite and this and what. You could make, I bet I could, give me £100, I'll make Fortnite boring. It's possible. You know what I mean?
That's true. I think I've also experienced, because what we call it now is like traditional teaching, where the teacher is going to be the center of attraction in the classroom. So mainly the teacher is the fountain of knowledge. But nowadays, on how I was taught in my university, is that kids are not a blank slate. They are fires to be ignited. That's 2 different things. So you may say that maybe for kinder and like preschool, that's the case, because they're like blank slates. But for levels 4, 5, and 6, they're actually very, very smart on their own. So I had sometimes my kids guess what we're going to learn today based on a game, and like them fix it, putting them in that kind of setup where they have to use their brain, gives them the reward of finding, oh, we're gonna learn this today, and I'm so excited about it. My trainer would say, my supervisor at the time, I think last year, she was saying, you know what, we don't want to teach kids what to learn, we wanted to teach kids how to learn, because there's a difference. When we teach A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we just teach alphabet like that, but we do not teach them how to spell ball. That's going to be a difficult thing, because they can recognize the letters, but they don't know how to spell. If they know how to spell, it would be easier for them. And that's how education should be. We're not teaching them, oh, this, and this. You know how I think we both had the same experience, where traditional teachers would like, okay, this is the topic, these are the details about the okay, let's take an exam. That's it. That's how it's gonna be. But nowadays, we should be encouraging kids to think, because they can be book smart, but when it comes to a time that they have to apply all these knowledge and they don't know how to do these stuff, this is how we can see that our educational system has failed us. And yeah, it's very challenging how to do that as well.
I think it sounds like you've done a very good job. I mean, yeah, I agree with a lot of those points you've made. I think that in general, any type of teaching, you know, it is more about the technique than the actual content itself. I mean,
yeah,
you know, you're gonna, and especially as you get older as well, you know, you need to be teaching kids or like adults even, you know, that they need to learn themselves. You know, I remember when I was in sixth form, which is the ages between 16 to 18, they began to teach us independent learning, but not quite. I mean, because that age, they really should be preparing you for university, because that's what it's going to be like at uni. But
that's true.
When I got to uni, I just had to relearn how to learn, and you have to do it yourself. They're like, well, we'll give you, you know, later I realized that things like your reading list is actually the the lecturer's way of saying, hey, here's a bunch of resources that are going to help you with your exams and your future papers. But obviously you naively go into it thinking, oh, I've got to read all of this stuff. Oh my God, how am I going to do that? You're not supposed to read all of it. You're supposed to pick and choose, and that forms the basis of your arguments and stuff. But yeah, they don't really teach you at school like things like critical thinking or like independent learning. It's something you have to learn yourself, which I think is crazy, because at some point in school you do need to be taught how to learn independently, because that's how you're going to be learning for the rest of your life. You know, it's not going to be like school. Yeah, even if you do a course and it's funded by the business that you work for or whatever, like you still have to do like 90% of the work. You have to like control everything and be in charge of like how you learn that stuff. Like the material is going to be given to you, but you still need to, you know, absorb it properly and use it properly. So yeah, but yeah, let's move it forward. One question I did want to ask you actually is, how long are lessons typically in the Philippines? Because you know, here in the UK it tends to be about an hour. When I was at school, it was like we had 50-minute sessions. And I believe there's a statistic that says that the average human being can only retain their attention for about 20 minutes on any given thing. So I was just wondering, like, how long on average are lessons in the Philippines? And what do you think is the optimum time? What's the best time for a length of a lesson?
Well, on my work, we used to have an hour. Sometimes, like if there are extra things to do, an hour and a half. But that doesn't mean that like we take the entire 1 hour or like the entire 1 hour and 30 minutes to teach. So
okay.
So mainly one of the things, just like what I said earlier, instead of me doing the hour, like the whole hour teaching, it's like 5 minutes for your preparation time, and then you prepare your materials, and then we do the lesson for like 15 minutes. And then we do the exercises during the length of the lesson. I find that very easy to do and much better because, again, just like what you said, kids can't like, especially like adults can try their best to retain their attention, but these are kids that we are talking about. These are both for elementary and high school. I do not let my kids be bored or do something that's stagnant. Instead, I try to keep them dynamic because when they're dynamic, their brain is also working. So, but in public schools, I used to do my field study there. We had an hour for classes, and then same with my old school, we have 1 hour. But some classes would take 30 minutes, so that's like the art subjects or like the secondary ones. I think students should be able to reach their capacity, not necessarily in the entire 1 hour, because the brain can only handle a little at the time. So if we can give like a specific time to teach, and then them self-exploring the lesson, and then you assisting them, that would help them to create more knowledge of the topic.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is completely different avenue I'm going with this, but are there any things related to how schooling is conducted in the Philippines that are unique to your particular culture and country? Because obviously every country has its own things. Like, for instance, I know that it's quite common in countries like Japan, I believe, to for the class to basically clean and tidy the room together before they leave. Like at any point, so at the end of a lesson, before they go for the summer holidays, whatever, that's a very common thing. But like other countries don't do that. So is there anything specific to the Philippines that you do that maybe other countries don't?
Well, I would say like this is from when I was in elementary school. This is about the lunch and stuff. I know that like schools, other schools have free lunches, other schools have paid lunches. But in the Philippines, when I was in second, third grade, we would have trays that have soups and like different kinds of stuff and goodies in them. So what would happen would be there would be a leader who would collect all the money from the kids. So you pay 10 pesos. I'm not sure, but this is like for the entire classroom. So the leader would collect 10 pesos, 10 pesos each student. I'm not sure how much is the conversion, but that's like very small. So for that 10 pesos, you get 5 pesos for a cup of soup, and then you have to choose from the tray. Usually kids who go first are the one who gets like the good stuff, because here in the Philippines you cannot let kids like go around like in lunchtime. I know some countries would send out their kids till recess and like send out to cafeteria, but here in the Philippines we would take the food in the classroom, and that's where we divide everything. So if you are last in line, there's a big percentage that you're going to be the one who's going to get the stuff that other kids didn't want.
No.
So that's how it would be. Well, the soup pretty much is good like traditional Filipino foods. We have porridge, and then sometimes we'd have noodles and then other stuff. But mainly I think that's number one that that other countries don't have, because you guys like other countries would have different types of lunches. But us, we have to pay 10 pesos, and that's actually required. And the teacher would count it at the end of the day, and she would say, this is not enough, somebody did not pay, because you have to like literally return the money, like all the worth, like all the food's worth in that money. So the teacher would have to pay for it if somebody doesn't pay for it. And yeah, I think it's kind of unique because it's a very good experience. You'd see kids running out into recess, literally just looking at the tray, and they would say, oh, I want this one, I have to be in line for this one. And that's very exciting. Like it brings back a lot of memories.
That's cool. Why did you actually decide to become a teacher? Like, what was the I suppose what drives or motivates you, or what initially motivated you to think, okay, I want to become a teacher?
Actually, I did not pick teaching at first. Well,
Okay.
I'll give you like a very short story. Well, when I was 12, I was volunteering in church, and I volunteered as an assistant teacher in Vacation Bible School. So that's where we teach kids every summer for a week Bible stories, and then we'd have a pretend graduation and stuff like that. And I was teaching. I'm not sure if I'm teaching the primary school around it's like 6-year-olds. And you know how 12-year-old kids would just follow the leader around. My sister was the main teacher, and I was the assistant teacher. I would be the one who would be picking up the kids from like their houses, because that's how we do it. It's a very secluded area where houses are like next to each other, and then we have to pick up the kids and bring them into one place, and then that's where we do all the stuff, and then we send them home just like that as well. So
wow.
I would pick them up every day, like every day for 1 week. And then kids would hold my hand like we're walking, like, teacher, what are we gonna learn today? Teacher, what are we gonna do? Is the food great today? And like, yeah, I'm very happy with that. But after that week, there was a graduation, and there was this one kid. She was very, very small, and she was tugging on my shirt, and she said, teacher, teacher, let's play more. I didn't think about it as much, but I just started thinking, wow, it feels great to be called teacher. It's very cute because it came from a little kid, and I said, oh, maybe this could be a thing. But when I moved on into college, I actually had this sheet of paper where I can tick which course I'm gonna get. I didn't even know that was it. Like, it just listed here, available courses in the school, and then there's this, and I'm thinking, oh, these are the available courses in the school. That's great. And then all of a sudden, the person next to me says, oh, this is where you're going to choose your course or your major. And oh, is that so? And then I just started looking at the paper, and I'm like, I think I'll take HRM because I like hotel management, because I want to learn how to like do businesses as well as like cook and all of that stuff. And then next is marketing, because I said, oh, when we go to marketing, you think of like business ideas and like how to advertise stuff. And then the last one that I had was Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick this one because I'm good at English. That's literally how it was. And then when I got to the register, she said, there are no more slots for HRM. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then I said, oh, okay, then let's pick the next one. Oh, there's no more slots for marketing as well. And I said, oh, okay, then I'll pick this one. And she said, are you sure you want to teach, like, or you want to be in the College of Education? And I was just thinking, yeah, I'm sure I can wing it because I'm good at English. And then and then I graduated from being an educator, and I'm just glad because I think it was a long time coming. Like I was just trying to evade it as much as possible. But I guess it would sound cheesy, but if God wants you to actually do it, he's gonna find a way to bring it, like pull you back to where he wants you to be. Because I dreamed of becoming a lot of things, but at the end he decided to like put me in that situation. I'm still glad that I had that course, and that's how I became a teacher.
I want to probe you a little bit on this, because what I'm hearing is that you're saying perhaps this is meant to be, perhaps it's like, I don't know, fate, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But okay, you said it's not your first choice. You didn't say that it was necessarily something that you disliked, but you would have preferred to do other things. Now, another thing as well, you're actually still quite young, aren't you? About 22, 23, something like that?
23. I turned 23 last Wednesday.
Oh, well, yeah. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
So do you, okay, obviously you enjoy being a teacher. That much is common from the conversation we've already had, but like, is it something that you feel, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, this is what I'm happy doing for the rest of my life? Or are you kind of like, let's see where this goes for the time being, and maybe there's other things that I want to do with my life? Because I've been where you are. Like, I've been in that situation. Because right now, you know, obviously I've been unemployed for a year, and I'm looking for, basically I'm trying to pursue acting and music and podcasting and many other things. But I went through this process of, you know, went to uni, got the degree, worked in the field for three years, and then afterwards I was like, this isn't what I want to do. It's like, it's a good job. I know I can do it well, but I'm not filled with like passion every day. I don't wake up every morning and go, this is it for me. Now, obviously, again, you like what you do, you are passionate about what you do, but whether or not it's what's right for you in your particular life is maybe still up for debate. So where do you kind of sit on that? Like, is there anything else you want to do with your life? Are there other things you want to do? Or maybe even you do want to keep pursuing teaching, but you want to move it forward and maybe go elsewhere with it. Like, what do you want to do with your life?
Well, when I was younger, I've always dreamed of becoming a singer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of I guess I lost that kind of passion for music. It's mainly because like a lot of people would say, I think it's actually sad that I listened to them, because if I hadn't, I would have probably pursued it. They would say, "Oh, you're not really that good to compete on like on TV shows," or, "Oh, you know what? The music career or the music industry in the Philippines is a very difficult place to be." And I just like got lost in that. So I think we were talking about this with my we were talking with my sister, because my sisters are actually teachers too. um we were talking about it, and she said, "You know what, once you're a teacher, there's nothing else that you know how to do." It's not in a negative thing, but it's kind of you see yourself just being there, because first you love the kids, second you want to see them grow, you want to see them become their best. And it's never boring in education. Like, believe me, every single year would be like a different set of kids. There'd be a ton of different things to do, different things to handle. And I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life, mainly because again, my goal in life is to teach how to communicate to other people. And to, I think, because my experiences as a student has been very difficult, I also want to see kids who were like struggling like me not to have the same things happen to them. So if I felt like I was alone, if I was being bullied, I don't want to see another kid be bullied in that same way, or like them feeling alone. That's why I can see myself like being in this position like for the rest of my life. And like I'm really in love with how teachers work, what they do, and how you see this kid. It's like watching flower growing, and it's really fun and exciting, because you don't know what you're going to get. Like, this kid can be a lot of kids would be troublemakers, but I had actually one student who would lash out in class every now and then. And then he's very good in digital art. He would send me stuff and say, "Teacher, what do you think of this?" And I'm his advisor. He was a very, very challenging case to handle. But one thing that I said was, I would help him because I can see potential in him. And that's how each teacher would think. Or I think I can't speak for everybody, but that's how I see teaching, seeing things like grow into bigger things. Like, you can be the most negative kid in class, but your teacher still sees the best in you. And then one day, maybe your teacher would see you like grow into that person that she thought that you were going to be. These are kind of instances that I understand, and this is what keeps me going in teaching, because not everybody believes in that kid. And if you believe in that kid and give that kid opportunity, he or she can reach his best potential, or his best self. And that's like literally the fire that ignites my teaching and like my heart to teach kids.
Awesome. So how do you kind of approach a situation where, you get a kid who's unruly? Obviously, you can kind of put two and two together there. You can be like, maybe there's a bad home life there. Maybe there's a bad relationship with the mother, the father. There's always going to be an underlying issue for why they're acting the way they are. But what's your process for sort of handling those kids and kind of get them on side as well, winning them over and getting them where they need to be?
One thing that I learned is, and I think adults should do this too. I've also given this tip for other people who are having like a hard time handling their stresses, is that you have to map out your emotions and your feelings and then your situations. So what it would look like on paper is, this is my emotion. What is causing it? So that's the thing. If it's something that you can't control, what is something that you can do about your feeling about it? So it's kind of you helping out the kid to, yes, you're validating their feelings, but at the same time you're helping them manage it. I had this conversation with my student. Um, he was a very good student for like first term, and then all of a sudden, after our mid tests, like in mid quarter tests, he all of a sudden changed his attitude. Like he started refraining to join group activities, or even if he would be on low energy, which is very unusual because he's a very cheery kid. And I said, "How are you doing? What's up?" And he would say, "Teacher, I'm okay." And
Mm.
then I learned that his parents were going through a tough time. They were planning for divorce and something like that. And he would often feel like he's very sensitive about it. And he has also thought of like negative, like, so like, I'm putting this on the table because this is what I've experienced. He would say, "Teacher, I've been having suicidal thoughts." And I said,
How old?
why
How
are
old was this kid?
he's 12. Yeah, he's 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And you see, these are things that you don't like as a teacher. Like if you're a normal person, you would say, "Oh, being a teacher is easy." But if you were in the place where you have a student that's like that, you're torn between staying within the line of being a teacher or being something more for that student. What we did was every day I would talk to him. Like I would, like, before class we would meet on Zoom, and I would say, "Hi, how are you doing? What's up?" And then he would say, "Teacher, this is what I'm feeling." And I would say, "Why are you feeling like that? Is there something we can do about it?" And, "Oh, teacher, because I feel bad about this and this and this." And then I would help him out, actually discussing it to him slowly, because one thing that we misunderstand is that kids can immediately understand things, especially their feelings. But as adults, we know how complex emotions can be, and these kids should not be thinking like that. Instead of just saying, "No, you're gonna be okay,"
Mm.
and or like, people, like a lot of my students would do this to him. He would say, "Oh, I'm feeling sad today," and they would say, "Oh, you're gonna be okay because good things are happening," and blah 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 blah. And I can see the sadness in his eyes, and him thinking, "Oh, no one's gonna understand me because I'm going through this and they're not." So as a teacher, my main role is for him to let him understand what he's feeling,
Mm.
and for him to understand that he's not alone. Even though I don't know what he's going through, I can help him out through being just there with him. So we would play Roblox, or like we would play Roblox together, and he would talk to me about how he's feeling and how he's doing. I don't know what happened to him now because he moved into another school,
Oh.
but I know that every time, like during his birthday, I sent him a message. I said, "I'm proud of you because you're always trying your best to go to school, even though you have this problem. And I'm really, really happy that you're trying. And that's what matters." And he said, "Teacher, thank you. I appreciate you very much." That line is like a sense of relief for me because I know that this kid is doing better. I understand that he sees what like the efforts are. And I think a lot of teachers should have that too. Like, because some teachers would just say, "Oh, it's online classes. It doesn't matter." But it matters more. Like, our emotional support to our students are matters more now because they do not have social interactions. Their friends are far away from them. They're secluded inside their houses. And my role is not just that small to them. We should be doing the best for these kids and touching their hearts. So yeah, I've have sorry. I've had sessions with my kids when I was still teaching as well. I've seen somebody who has cuts on their wrists, and I don't know how to handle that.
Wow.
We had called their parents, and then every day I'd have her checked up on, like, her friends. um I feel sorry for that kid
Mm.
sometimes, but right now when I see it, she's doing well. And if we hadn't done anything for her, she might have gone somewhere else. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I just got to take a minute to say.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I just want to take a minute to just say, like, well done. You know what I mean? For going the extra mile. I think both from myself, and I'm sure many of the people listening to this will agree. Like, you know, not many teachers will often go to those lengths to make sure that, you know, their students are happy, safe, and on the right track. I mean, you know, I've had teachers not with in that sense, but like I do remember one time, I was going through a particularly difficult time. I was probably about 13, 14, and there was just various things going on in my life, and I didn't really feel like the school. I felt like the school system was failing me. You know, I was a smart kid with a system that was very hit and miss. Like, there were some teachers that took me seriously, but a lot of them were like, "Oh, he's just a troublemaker. He's just." Yeah. They didn't see through that, which I think as a teacher you have to see through that and get to the root of it, and as you say, like, bring them out and kind of help them to flourish. You can't just discard them. And I remember I was failing this business class. When I say failing, like, I was just not doing very well. And I remember sitting down with this teacher. So shout out to Miss Zanelli, you're awesome. And I would have been 13, 14. It was the beginning of this course, and I was doing very badly. And she just sat me down. And another thing as well, she's a mother. And I think that being a parent often helps when you're a teacher. Yeah. Not always, it's not essential, but I do think it helps with your perspective, and knowing how to communicate and how to approach children as well. And basically she said, "What do you want to do with this?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she's like, "You know, best case scenario, what would you want to do?" And I just sarcastically said, like, "Oh, I want to ace the course, get the highest possible marks," you know, because I just knew it wasn't possible. And she just turned and looked at me and just dead faced just said, "Okay, well, you're going to need to work very hard then." And I was just shocked. I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, because I expected her to just be like, "Oh, okay, let's focus on a more realistic goal," something like that, right? But she's like, "No, like, you know, if you want it, we can work out a plan and we can make this happen." And I was just like, "Oh, okay." And then I got excited. Then I was like, "Oh," and then I started working my ass off. And within a year, I was acing the course, and I finished the course with the highest marks possible. I took the next version of the course in A level between 16 to 18, aced that course, and had her as one of my main teachers throughout that whole time. And she really helped me sort of turn things around and with my attitude and everything. And I guess my whole point with this is that, you know, if you go the extra mile for students, you really show that you care and you show that you're invested in them. The sky's the limit, really. That's, you know what I mean? It's about giving people confidence, and you know, I had very low self-esteem. Sounds like many of the kids that you're dealing with have that as well. You know, their parents are failing them. They don't have people turning around to them and telling them what they can become. And that's really what you need. You need people to turn around to you and tell you, "Hey, anything is possible. You just need to believe in yourself and work hard." And you know, so I just wanted to say, like, well done on that. Well done for going the extra mile. That's awesome. Now, I've got two questions back to back, and you already kind of, I think, summed up a lot of maybe the better, more positive things. But I want to ask you these two questions back to back. Firstly, what are the best things about teaching? So straight away, just off the top of your head, you know, what are the main things about teaching? You're like, okay, this is awesome. Best things about teaching.
Every day is not the same. It's mainly because a lot of jobs nowadays would be like very, very routinary, and like that's why people get burned out, because it's the same thing over and over again, and they feel like it's a dead end because there's nothing to it. But in education, just like what I said, every year there's like this set of kids, and it's not just one set. It's like when I was teaching in physical school, I had 5 classes in a day, so that's like 5 sets of different students, and in every single class there's just this small thing or maybe this big thing that would make you laugh or like love the kids more. I'm a very emotional teacher, I would say, because I attach myself. I tend to attach myself to my kids. But my first advisory class was the 7th grade, and these were kids who actually knew Vine memes. And there was this one time we were having exams, and I said, okay, if you guys want to relax, let's watch a video. And then I let them use my laptop, and they searched up videos there. And then they started playing this compilation of Vine memes. And I said, that's my same, that's the humor that I like. And these kids like that too. And we find ourselves, like me personally, I find myself um having fun with the kids. And sometimes kids will yell meme references even though you try to be serious, and like they're having exams and then somebody just yells a meme reference and we all start laughing. It's something that you cannot pay with money. And then I also have these kids because I have my the youngest that I was teaching was second graders, and then the next one was third graders. Every time they see me, they will yell, "Mommy Grape is here!" And I don't know. I guess I started calling them grapes because every time I walk into their classroom, they start hugging me and they start piling together and they look like grapes. And they would do like, "Hi, Mommy Grape. Good morning. What are we gonna do today?" And then the other class heard it, the second graders, and they said, "Why do they keep calling you Mommy Grape? Okay, we're gonna call you Mommy Mango." And those kinds of little stuff are like the best things, and it's just rewarding to like see the kids grow. And just these are things that you enjoy every day, and memories, and like seeing the smile in the kids faces are something that cannot be paid by money or like compensated with anything else. So yeah, there's that.
Man, after such a great answer, that's such a positive answer, I feel bad asking this next question. Yeah, what are the worst things about teaching?
Okay. I would say the parents.
Hey.
You have like specifically in private schools, especially when you're working in a very expensive private school. And for example, I haven't had an advisory class that had a problem, but I had students in the other grade levels who were saying that, why is my kid's grade like this? He's been doing all the work and he's been doing his best, but when the grades do not reflect it, sometimes you cannot just say, "Oh, ma'am, it's because your kid didn't really match what they're trying to tell you because this is an online class. They're still not doing their best." You cannot say that. Or just dealing with entitled parents. Yeah. I would not say they're like kind of Karens, but they're just like you find yourself in a position where this parent is saying, "My kid is good. Why is he not doing well? There's a problem with you," instead of the kid. Or like we often solve this with, it's not always allowed, but you show the grades to the parents and like the school records. You would say, "Ma'am, even though you say that he did this, this is what my records show." And sometimes you find parents who would say, "I would pull out my kid from this school," and you cannot do anything about it. I cannot say, "Please don't go because I will lose my job." I cannot say that. Sometimes I think my supervisor would say, my old supervisor said to me one time, if they say they want to pull their kid out of the school, then they can pull them out of the school because that's their choice. We're
Yeah.
doing our 100% best. But when you find parents, like some of them would yell at you,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and I don't know sometimes what to do because they're like so angry and mad at me, and I cannot say anything mean to them. I'm just gonna say, "I'm so sorry. Okay, let's work that out. We can schedule a tutorial session and stuff like that." Sometimes you have to take responsibility, even though it's not necessarily your fault. Also, I think the rowdy kids, like those people who are like just literally mean to other kids. I wouldn't say in my school, in my old school, I wouldn't say that I've found kids who bully others, but I have observed and I've also experienced bullying when I was in school. So it's kind of difficult to face that kind of things because I've experienced that, but also sometimes it's the frustration of, is it a problem with the family, or is it just the child dealing with something, or is it something wrong with me teaching. Sometimes it's like kind of frustrating in that kind of way. So bullying and rowdy students are like kind of in the negative side of teaching.
And what are some things about being a teacher that maybe the average person might not know?
It's more than just standing inside the classroom and yelling at your kids. That's not how you do it.
Isn't it? I thought that was exactly what teaching was.
Like they would, especially this quarantine period, and when everybody else had to turn into online classes, people would say, why are the teachers like so relaxed in this time? It's so like hectic, it's so stressful. It's because parents and like not hands-on parents finally experience what we experience in real life. Like there would be a problem with the assignments, or like they're missing some things. Usually when the student approaches the teacher, we immediately know what to do because based on experience, we actually know how to address that. But parents, they would say, why is homeschooling so difficult? Why are you asking them to do all this? And we like, sometimes it just makes me smile because sometimes teachers are underpaid, but when parents see how difficult it must be for teachers to actually handle physical school, it's just a fun experience to like see them like so angry sometimes. But then again, it's a matter of how you handle and how you see the profession itself. Again, it's not about you yelling at your kids, and yelling at your kids never work.
Yeah,
that's something that yelling at your kids never work. It's kids nowadays are very different to how we were as kids. I would say a lot of us were afraid of our parents, but because school systems have been child-centered, it's more of approaching how the child would respond and how we want the ideal things to come out of the child, without forcing them to. And yeah, so I when I get mad with my class, I do not yell at them because they know that I don't yell. But when I say you have to finish that on time, they know that there's something in them that says, oh no, teacher's mad. There's something. I told my sister this because she's in the 9th grade. Do you ever yell at your students? I say, no, I never yell at my students. I talk to them sternly and to a point that they understand, because you're not dumb. You understand when somebody is upset, and you should know when somebody is upset, especially using like voice intonations and like facial expressions. And then students should be also taught boundaries, and these are things that parents already have in their houses. Like they yell at their kids sometimes, or like they don't have that boundary set. But for teachers, it's a whole different situation. That's why there's a big difference, and that's how difficult teaching is. So yeah.
Do you have any advice for aspiring teachers?
Teaching will tire you out. Teaching will
That's like advice.
Yeah. Well, I would say that in it's kind of like a precaution, or like it's a disclaimer. Teaching will tire you out.
Yeah.
But no matter how difficult it is, you will always find your way to stay in that situation, especially when your heart is in it and when you really care for your students. So get ready and buckle up, because this is the best job ever. That's it. I'm like hands down.
I must say this whole discussion has not gone exactly how I thought it would. Like, I expected us to talk in depth about teaching, but you've really sold teaching very well. I must say, I applaud you. I think there's a lot of people that probably come away from this thinking like, maybe I'll consider that. You know. Yeah, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to throw something that I always throw all of my guests. It's got nothing to do with teaching. What's the biggest life lesson that you've learned so far?
When you've experienced bad things, you don't want them to happen to others. As like you can say this as a teacher. I think I can see it as a person because I've gone through a lot. Like I've lost interest in everything that I like. I've felt bullying. I felt like body shaming at some point. And if you're in that position and you see others go through that, you don't want that to happen to them. Or in other words, like when you love somebody, you don't want them feeling that kind of pain. Sometimes we just want to avoid in that place. Like there were moments that I've lost my sense of self, like what I was passionate about and what I like because of these bad things. I think as a person, and if I've ever met, or if I actually have a student who has gone through like battling with depression. She was very young. She lost everything that she have ever wanted, and like all the passion just was gone, and she stopped going to class. And I realized I also have gone through that, where I felt like my life was very routinary, and I just wanted everything to like end in an instant. And there was nobody that I could talk to about it, because first, sometimes we feel like it's not as important as we think it would be. And when I saw that situation happen to others, it just felt like, no, I have to step in, I have to help this person. So because we don't want to feel that, always remember to help others regardless of what they're going through, and just be there for them. It doesn't have to be a very big help, you just have to be there for them, because especially during this quarantine period, um everybody feels alone at some point. Like you can be on video calls in your class, but at the end of the day, when you're sitting inside your room, you kind of feel that loneliness just wash over you. So you be there for anybody, because you don't want to feel the same pains that like you have experienced, and that just passed on to others.
Thanks for sharing. And as we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or maybe some final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'm currently teaching ESL to Koreans, so that's pretty much what I'm up to. So if you have people you want to invite and like learn English, like conversational English, please find our tutorial center. It's Play and Learn Tutorials. You can find it easily on Facebook and on Instagram. So if you guys want to learn English from me and from other teachers, you can go ahead and do that.
Excellent. Yeah, massive thank you for appearing on the show and discussing your life as a teacher. It's been a fascinating insight, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you for the opportunity. It's very fun.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening to the Christian Reeve podcast, be safe, be well. Thank you for listening. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.